All right, guys, this is our geometry unit. We are going to today work on finding the area of a polygon. Some of this is going to be a little bit of a review, but then we're also going to add some other shapes that you have not worked with before. So let's first just get a basic definition of area. This is on your notes. So area is the amount of surface that a figure covers, okay? The amount of surface that an area covers. So let's think of some real life examples. If I'm looking at my classroom right now, and if I wanted to get new carpet, I would need to find the area because this is my classroom. So the area, the carpet covers the whole area of my classroom, okay? If I wanted to paint my walls, I would need to find the area of the wall because the paint would need to cover the whole wall, all right? So that is area. When dealing with area, your units are always going to be squared, okay, because you are multiplying length times width. So your answers will always be squared. So make sure you always square your units. Okay? All right, so let's look at some area formulas that hopefully you know already. So if I'm looking at an area of a rectangle, to find the area, you're going to multiply length times width. So on your notes, I want you to write A equals L times W. Now, if you want to write length times width, that's fine. If you want to write it out, that's fine. But just know that I will probably just say L times W. Okay? All right, so what that means is, let's say this is 5 inches and this is 12 inches. You just multiply the length times the width. That's 5 times 6, which is 60. There are my units, and I'm going to square it. Okay, so even though this says 60 inches squared, we normally say it 60 square inches. Okay, all right, area of a rectangle should not be new to you. So let's do some examples. All right, so again, my formula is length times width. So I'm going to multiply. This is a square. So length times width, 5 times 5, that's just 25 inches, and then it's squared. All right. You go ahead and do these other two. If you want, you can use a calculator, but I want to see what you did. All right. So in this case, I would have said 5 times 5. Then I would have had the answer. Okay. All right. Pause the video and do these two problems and come back for your answers. All right. Check those answers. Again, make sure your units are squared. Okay. All right, let's go to the next formula. All right, a parallelogram. A parallelogram, guys, really, if you look at it, it's kind of, I always think of it, it's a little bit of a squished rectangle. It's been squished over, okay? So the formulas are going to stay the same, except for we're going to call this the base, and this is the height. So the base of the parallelogram can be really any of the bottom sides here, okay? And then the height is the perpendicular distance from one of the bases to the opposite base, okay? And normally what they're going to do is they're going to show you the height by a dotted line, okay? They will show you the height of that, okay? So they'll have to give it to you. So in this case, it's still, you might still kind of think of it as length times width, but we're actually going to call it base times height now, base times height. So write this on your notes sheet. Area equals B times H. If you want to write base times height, that's fine. Ooh, hey, I don't know what happened there. So base times height. So if you want to kind of see why I said it's kind of a squished one, if you look, so this is a parallelogram, it's kind of squished. But the reason why our formula still works is if you look at this, if I were to move this over, doesn't that just become a rectangle? Oh, I hear the oohs and ahs. Oh, yeah, I do. Okay. All right. So that's why base times height still works. Or if we were looking at the rectangle, length times width. Okay. So let's do some examples. So find the area. So it's still base. And this is my height. I'm showing it by this little dotted line. It's from the base to the other base. Okay. So it's just 13, my base, times my height. 21, carry my 2, 91, and then it's inches squared. Okay? All right, you pause the video and go ahead and do the other two problems. All right, check your answers. Again, we're dealing with area, so make sure your units are squared. Okay? All right, let's go to the next one. All right, so we're going to talk about triangles now. And if you look, here is a parallelogram. Oh, sorry, this is a parallelogram and a rectangle. What do you notice about if I cut it in half? Okay, it forms two triangles, right? Okay, so my formula, let's see if this makes sense to you. So the area of a triangle is 1/2 the base times the height. So do you see why I'm dividing it in half? Because over here, if I multiplied base times height, that would give me the area of this rectangle. But then if I take half of it, that's going to give me the area of just this triangle. Okay? So on your paper, the area of a triangle is 1/2 the base times the height. So 1/2 the base times the height, or I would write it like this, guys. Base times height, and then you want to divide by 2. I think this is your easier formula for you guys to understand. Okay? The bell just rang, so I'm going to pause the video and come back. So hold on 1 second, guys. All right, guys, I am back, and I am here with my first hour. So first hour, say something. Okay, so we're going to finish up.
Rusty spoon.
All right, so make sure that you wrote down the area formula for the triangle, which is base times height, and then divided by 2. Okay? All right, so again, the height is the distance from from the base to the top of the vertex here. That is my height. Okay? All right, let's do some examples here. All right, so I have, this is my base, and this is my height. Again, I'm showing you the height by the dotted line. If you look over here, this is a weird triangle, so the height is, again, showing you here by this dotted line, but it's outside of the triangle. Don't let that confuse you. It's still just the height of the triangle. All right, so I'm going to do the first one with you. So it's base times height. I'm going to write my formula again. Area equals base times height, and then I'm going to divide by 2. Okay, so 8.75 times 4.5. I'm going to do that first. I'm going to use my calculator. You can as well. And I get 39.375. And now I need to divide that by 2, which gives me 19.6875. And again, it's still area, so inches squared. Okay? All right, so it's base times height, and then you divide by 2 because it's basically half of a rectangle. Okay? All right, do these two problems. You're just going to plug in the formula, base times height, divide by 2, and come back for your answers. All right, go ahead and check your answers. Again, make sure your units are squared because we're talking about area. Okay? All right, so this is nothing different, guys. We're just plugging in a formula just like you did for the functions. All right, the next one we're going to talk about is a trapezoid, which this is definitely a new formula for you, trapezoid. First of all, let's talk about what a trapezoid is. A trapezoid is different than the other formulas because it's really a weird shape. All right, so let's talk about a trapezoid. A trapezoid has 2 bases. So it's this base here and this base here. These are parallel lines, okay? So you know that the bases are the base because they're parallel. These right here cannot be my bases because they're not parallel. Parallel lines are 2 lines that never cross, okay? The height, again, is the same thing. It goes from one base to the top base, okay? Again, you'll see the height by a dotted line, all right? So this is a little bigger formula, or bigger shape here, okay? All right, so the formula, this is a tricky formula. So here we go. It says 1/2 base 1 plus base 2 times the height. I'm going to give you an easier formula. So this is what I want you to write. The area equals base 1 plus base 2 times the height, and then divide by 2. So the last thing you're going to do is divide it by 2. Okay? All right, so this is the formula. You're just going to plug it in. Plug it in. Base 1 plus base 2 times the height, then divide by 2. So let's do an example. All right, so I wrote the formula again. Base 1 plus base 2 times the height, divide by 2. So we're just plugging in. So first of all, you need to figure out where my bases are. My bases are my parallel lines. So these are my bases. So base 1 plus base 2 times the height, there's my height, divide by 2. All right, so now let's finish it. So 9 plus 4, or sorry, 9 plus 5 is 14 times 8 divided by 2. So 14 times 8 is 112 divided by 2 equals 56. Still area, so we are square units. Okay? All right, you do these other two questions. Just plug in the formula. Write it out exactly like I did, and then solve it. Okay? All right, pause the video and come back when you're finished. All right, go ahead and check your answers. Again, we're talking area, so it should be squared units. Okay? All right, really the trapezoid is probably your only new formula. So if you have questions with that, make sure and ask. Okay? All you're doing, guys, though, is just following this formula and plugging it in. So you should have written down the formulas for each one on your notes. And all right, so last thing, when you find area, FPA, number one, first thing is figure out what formula. So you need to know what shape it is. Is it a rectangle? Is it a triangle? Is it a parallelogram or a trapezoid? So once you know the shape, you know what formula to use. Then you simply plug in the numbers to the formula and solve. Okay, make sure your answer has the correct units and it is squared because we're talking about area. Okay. All right, here's your exit slip. You have 6 problems. You can do this on the back of your sheet. If you have any questions, let us know. Have a great day, guys. Bye!